Governor Bobby Jindal, all rust and timed and rested, has announced that today his presidential campaign is over. And I'm so surprised. I'm so shocked. I mean, he was doing great in Iowa. And now the whole, just everything's over with him. It's all gone. It's all done. I'm so disappointed. This is the worst day ever. Not really. So, he only gained traction in Iowa, which I kept saying he's doing great in Iowa because they asked him about whether or not he was going to drop out last month, and he said that he was doing great in Iowa. So that's where that uh, phrase came from, straight out of the horse's mouth. Of course, I don't mean to call him a horse, but just using that phrase here, it's really amazing because I really didn't know. Basically, we went this really long time period where no one dropped out or no one really looked closer to dropping out than anybody else. I mean, Walker was unexpected because he was in the top group, or he hadn't, even though his numbers were going down, he still could reasonably be considered a front runner, uh, and just had this thing in the background where you could kind of guess that he would eventually get there, even though Trump was kind of getting his spot. But in the case of Jindal, someone who stayed in the bottom group the entire, what, June, July, August, September, October, November, 6 months. You know, it's so sad because really, if about half of the people in this field weren't in, so Trump, Pataki, Graham, Carson, Fiorina, just all the ones that aren't, that really, they didn't get speculation that they would run as widely as Jindal, Cruz, Rubio, and Christie, and maybe Walker. And those are really the five. I just remember everybody going, "Oh yeah, they're gonna run, they're gonna run, they're gonna run, they're gonna run. Oh, there's nothing you can do about it. They're gonna run, they're gonna run, they're gonna run." And I really think when all these other people started showing up and saying, "Oh, I'm running, I'm running, I'm running, I'm running," it was just this summer of announcements of presidential campaigns. Jindal was most negatively impacted by that because there are just too many people. This giant, enormous field with. Uh, when you look at the Democrat side, it's already embarrassing, but it's embarrassing primarily because they don't have anybody. They have Clinton, Sanders, and O'Malley. That's three guys. Yeah, it was six, but see the difference 2 months can make. Because all of them, I think, dropped out just a few weeks from each other, or a couple days from each other, actually. So when I look at Jindal's situation, it really, it's so hard for me to not laugh because the guy went out of his way to court the voters in Iowa. Just Iowa, Iowa, Iowa. He's doing great in Iowa. He was doing great in Iowa. And now that courting was for nothing. And I think that's kind of the problem with most presidential campaigns is that they focus on Iowa and New Hampshire. But then all the other states, they just kind of say, "Oh, well, they'll vote for me anyways." Or they don't put too much effort into it. They're saying Christie's doing a similar thing with New Hampshire. And if he is, then that's really not good for his campaign, but whatever. Um, yeah, Jindal. I mean, he was part of that group along with Cruz and Rubio of these minority office holder Republicans that they could be the first Cuban president of the United States, the first Asian president of the United States. They could break records. They could be our Obama. Of course, not our Obama because we don't have very many African Americans in our party. Certainly none that have held offices, I'll tell you that. High offices like governor or senator. You have Scott, but I mean, that's one guy, and he wants to just stay in the background. He would have made more sense than Carson, but whatever. That's his decision. So they really promoted Jindal. They said, "Oh man, this is our guy. This is the one. We're gonna elevate him. We're gonna put the first Indian American in the White House." And really, the support he had up until this year, no, not even just this year, but just up until I want to say Trump got in, because that's when everybody started. He would get 20%, and everyone would get one or two or three. So really, before he got in, he was just kind of this guy where, oh, that's somebody I want. If I can't get Cruz or Rubio, I want Jindal. There were really people who thought that way. There's still people who think that way. So he he really at this point I think was just ruined by how big the field is. Now it's 14 people, which is still too big. But I'm not too upset anymore because look how small the Democrat field is. Uh, Really, in comparison with that, I'm just like that makes up for it. I'm fine with this number since the Democrat field is so enormous. But then what I don't understand is the guy knew he wasn't getting any traction. The guy knew all he was doing was going back and forth to Iowa. They had a little thing that said 3 weeks in his campaign he had visited Iowa, must be 4 times or 3 times, some number that you just I hadn't seen for anybody else. Just going to the same state over and over and over again. Yes, I know it's the early primary state, but again, you've only raised $1 million in months when you have Cruz who raised what 27 million at this point, 28 million, somewhere around that number. Rubio who raised about 17 million or 16 million by this point, and you have Carson who raised 32, which I don't even know how that's possible. Just I don't even know why anybody supports him. Period. Because he won't get the nomination. Like, Jindal had a better chance of getting the nomination than him, and I don't. That's kind of scary when you think about it. The front runner just wouldn't. He could be the front runner for a whole year, and he still wouldn't get the nomination. Because no one is going to go out there and cast the ballot for him, and he's not even going to be on. I already said that he's just running for his books. This is his presidential book tour. I'm gonna stick to that too. But again, Jindal's campaign completely highlights all of the things wrong with this election cycle. The fact that there were too many people. The fact that the guy who really was looked at as one of the few minority Republicans of high office that they could take credit for and be impressed by and have people of minorities such as myself aspire to be like. Uh, just it's complete. It's kind of sad actually. Just this guy, this self-made young man, gets his spot taken by some old guys and just all kind of different people around that spectrum of candidates that they have. It's really sad because I'm still impressed by how young he was when he became governor. What 36? Could have even become governor at 32 if he won that election beforehand. So I'm really kind of not really surprised because I knew he wasn't going to win. It just came down to when he would finally pull the plug, and today he did. So that's interesting.